Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Weekend Winners in association with Bet Victor, your weekly go-to show for your best bets ahead of the weekend action. And we have another top show for you on this week's episode as we preview the final domestic Group 1 of the season in the form of the Kameko Futurity Trophy Stakes at Doncaster. And as well as that, we also have 3 races at Cheltenham. The jump season is back in full swing and Cheltenham stages its first meeting of the year. Now, I'm not going to be previewing these races in my usual company because Declan Ricks is away this week, but we have enlisted the embodiment of the super sub, super in every way, Sky Sports Racing's senior analyst, Jamie Lynch. Jamie, welcome to Weekend Winners.
Great to be here, Kate and Sam. Have you ever heard of Jason Galasso?
No.
Right. Jason Galasso, he was the frontman of NSYNC. And then it wasn't quite working. They laid down a few tracks, did a few gigs, wasn't quite working. But then they said, we need Timberlake. So effectively, Declan is Jason Galasso.
And that was me thinking...
And you're Justin Timberlake.
Yeah, don't worry about that.
You are Justin Timberlake. Yeah, minus the curls at that stage, but we can work on the dance moves and I'm sure you'll fit the mould just fine. So, Justin Timberlake here. Sam, what does that make you?
Oh, I dread to think, Kate, my singing voice wouldn't get me into any boy bands. But no, great to be here. Obviously, last week, really exciting week at Champions Day. Obviously, we had picked a few horses out. King of Steel, notable. Blue Stocking just touched off. But yeah, I think our head of trading was sweating a little bit when Kim Ross and Art Power hit the front together. And Art Power, I think, is his new favourite horse after we nearly saw a bit of Frankie panic for one final time. Till next year.
Until we get to see him again, as you say, but the bookies managed to get away with that with Frankie, but very well done to you for King of Steel and your other results on the day. Now, before we get stuck into the action, a reminder as ever to please do gamble responsibly. Our tips are not guaranteed to win, but we will still do our best to point you in the right direction all the same. Right, on with the action, because we begin with the feature race of the entire weekend. This is, of course, the Group 1 Kameko Futurity Trophy Stakes for the 2-year-olds over a mile at 2:10 at Doncaster, a race that has produced a mountain of classic and Group 1 winners in the last 10 to 15 years, the likes of August Rodan, Kameko himself, Camelot, Magna Grecia, Saxon Warrior. This year, it's Charlie Appleby versus Aidan O'Brien at the head of the market. So, Jamie, who wins this one?
I think this is the unfair fight. In history, this has been an unfair fight between the form book and Aidan O'Brien. He's decided who's going to win this, despite what the form book says, and has done so 11 times. It's been an unfair fight this year between Godolphin and Ballydoyle. Charlie Appleby in the shadow of Aidan O'Brien all season. But I think he's supplemented Ancient Wisdom in the hope that this might be an unfair fight. That the advantages that Ancient Wisdom brings of being so streetwise, of being so experienced, of being on the straight track, and of being so together against a horse who's still raw like Diego Velasquez, for me, that tips the balance of power in the favour of Ancient Wisdom. So I'm thinking that he might land a blow, finally, for Godolphin against Ballydoyle.
Yeah, and sorry to butt in there, Sam, but I have to because I'm over the moon to start with because I'm agreeing with Jamie in our first race, so I feel like I'm already on to a winner just on that front alone because Ancient Wisdom, I feel, with the supplementation here, the knee action on him that he showed last time out at Newmarket was just something that is going to deal with conditions best of all. I know that Diego Velasquez, some of his relations, of course, dealt with soft ground really well, but in terms of his own movement, from what we've seen of him so far, I'm concerned about him in these testing conditions rather than Ancient Wisdom. You look at his form from the listed race at Ascot where he failed as favourite in that, but it was won by Rosalie and he went on to win the Group 1 Prix Jean-Luc Lagardère. The 6th was Sunway, of course, who went on, well, got back to winning ways in the Group 1 Criterium International. The 4th and 6th, they've won listed level or above since then. So I'm hoping that he's just improved further and the supplementation will be landed. So we're teaming up with Ancient Wisdom. Would you like to take us on? Are you siding with us?
No, look, I'll take you on, I think, here. I think you've both made very fair points. It's a cracking head-to-head, isn't it? And I think that's what's really exciting. But for me, Diego Velasquez is such an unexposed horse. It's the exciting angle. And maybe I'm getting a bit suckered in, but you look at the likes of Luxembourg, Magna Grecia, Saxon Warrior, all came here off very similar preparation, just the 2 runs. The ground, listen, you can make case to suggest he may not suit it, but I can't believe that this wet summer we've had, where they are in Ireland with the most perfect, immaculate turf that gallops you could use, I can't believe he's not at least had a little bit of a leg stretch on something that resembles soft to heavy ground. I think he'll handle it. I think you've mentioned, obviously, in the page, there's enough to suggest there. Point Lonsdale's a relation, obviously gone really well. Softer ground by Frankel, who seems to produce horses that can just win on anything these days. I'm more than happy. And because we've got the Godolphin horse in there, I'm getting a price as well. For me, it's between the front pair in the market, and I'll shade with Coolmore.
Okay, then. So going with the Aidan O'Brien representative even at the head of the market. But I think we're all in agreement that between the top two in the race is the best way to look. Right. They are our selections then for the Futurity. Do let us know your own selections in the comment section below. Now, before we move on to our next race, please do remember to subscribe to the At The Races YouTube channel and also hit the bell notification so you never miss an episode. Right, on to the next race, because now we switch our attentions to the jumpers as we head to Cheltenham. This is for a handicap chase for 4-year-olds and over 2 miles at 1:15. So Sam, speedy chases to the fore for you to go out, so please take this one away.
Yeah, I quite like the look of the favourite, but I'm not sure about the track for him, so we'll have a discussion about that a bit later on. Red Rookie for me, I was really keen on this horse until I saw what the ground was going to be. Really needs softer ground, goes well fresh, and Millever on great form, but I'd be surprised, I wouldn't be shocked if he actually comes out the race. Guy's been doing plenty of recent winning, but I can't quite trust him enough in this kind of company. So I've ended up going for Before Midnight, who's a little bit shorter now than that graphic suggests, and I can understand why people have come for Fergal O'Brien's horse. The rider's going to take 7 off here, and I just think he's a really, really interesting contender. Moved from Sam Thomas's yard, had the one run, a nice little prep run, I think, for this. You know, the ground is going to be right up his street as well. And I just felt at the price at 9-1 where he was an each-way shot. I think he's now a little bit closer to 6-1 with ourselves. We've already seen some early support there. Yeah, I really like him, and I just think there'll be another big run here. Obviously, you know, previously won this off a similar kind of mark. There's so much to like about his chances, and for all his competitive field, I'm very interested to hear why Jamie has sided with the favourite.
Oh, there you go. What a way to tee it up then. So, Jamie, would you like to take it off of him?
I feel like hidden in there was a criticism as well of siding with the favourite.
That's just the way you phrase
I don't normally look at jumps race until about the 10th of March. That's when I decide to jump in. But this Haddock's des Obeaux strikes me that a mark of 146 might undersell him by some way. He was going to go off about 4-1 against John Bon in the Kingmaker last year, which is reflective of his performance prior to that. At Doncaster, but more so at Warwick when he made short work of Galop de Chasse and Third Time Lucky. Now, with him returning in this spot, I think it's a pretty punchy statement by Gary Moore to send him to Cheltenham for a race like this. Your point about the track, is it more to do with the field size and the fact that he's never been in a race like this?
Yeah. I just think his style, I guess the fact that he wants to go forward will probably actually be quite useful in a field like this, but I just wondered, would you not suggest that those sort of slightly flatter tracks he's been winning at might just be I was just looking for trying to... I thought I respected him, but I just thought he was just a little bit short at the price, and that was the biggest question mark I could find to kind of put me off him. Yeah,
but historically, the Old Course at Cheltenham is a really good place for front runners, and actually, he might take it away from a lot of these, like Editor de Gite did, and this is the next carnation of Editor de Gite, who was third in this race last year under a surprisingly patient ride, but it'd be hard to hang on to this lad tomorrow. So my gut feeling is that look at the form from last year. I think this might be the last chance you get to back Haddock's des Obeaux in a handicap, and a mark of 146 might well undersell him. They might not see which way he goes tomorrow, Kate.
No, and there's a lot of pace on, but you know that he's going to be there front and centre on the front end, and goodness help any horse that tries to go with him if he can replicate that Warwick running style to Cheltenham in itself. So, yeah, I was really keen with Haddock's des Obeaux, but like I say, I tried to look away from him then eventually. And the other class angle for me in the race, should he go here, not long till May. Now, we're not entirely sure if he's going to go here or to Aintree for the Old Rowan then on Sunday. He was jocked up with Adam Wedge on board for this race from quite a few days out, so I'm hoping that the intent is there. Laura Morgan, she said earlier on in the week in an interview that the Cheltenham race looks easier, but flatter tracks probably see him to a better effect. I'm hoping they take the easier race option, therefore, because when you look back through the recent trends of this race, you want a horse that ran in a Class 1 race last time out, that this is their reappearance and they're a younger animal. He's all of the above. When we last saw him, he ran a mighty race. Yes, he probably did have positional bias in returners, and it wasn't a great renewal of returners, but he still ran a mighty race in that to finish second. And prior to that, he was 3 from 3 over fences, 3 from 3 for Laura Morgan as well. So I'm hoping that his class will come to the fore before he too perhaps goes on to bigger and better things. So not long till May for me. Should he go here instead of Aintree, Jamie?
Haddock's des Obeaux, I think.
And Sam?
Beyond Midnight for me.
Right, then 3 different selections for us in our opener at Cheltenham. Again, do let us know your own selection in the comments section below. As we move on to a later race on Cheltenham's card, this is a handicap chase for 4-year-olds and over 3 mile 1 at 2.25. It's wide open, more Irish involvement in here. So Jamie, we currently have 5-1 the field. Quick draw heading the way, so what was your play?
Yeah, it's one of those Irish Raiders that you mentioned, Kate. Am I right? 13-2 shot with Bet Victor. Now, this horse has got a mark of 142, and some of the novice form, some of it would suggest that that could be lenient, and they must have thought it was lenient as well, because he went off favourite for the Irish Grand National on his final start last season, even as a novice. Now, something wasn't right with him that day, but he's been refreshed and reprogrammed and coming back to a spot which is really interesting. A second season chaser from that yard attacking Cheltenham on his reappearance. So with Am I Right, he's a lightly raced horse, generally progressive, but some of that novice form last year, including Grade 1s, it just reads really well off his mark. Manila Crooner, the Devil's Coachman, those types of horses. On those, he looks pretty leniently treated to me.
He definitely does, doesn't he? And an Irish Raider then, so normal service resumed for Jamie at Cheltenham. Sam, but where were you looking?
Jamie's not left a lot of meat on the bones, because I completely agree. The only thing I can really add to it is the horse has gone well fresh previously as well. I thought looking through the race, I really wanted to take on the favourite. I wasn't too taken with the form from the last time out run. A few of the others, just to give a quick run through. Twig I thought was interesting for Ben Pauling. That horse has certainly improved. It's quite interesting. Ben sent him back point to pointing, and then when he came back into the yard, he's absolutely flourished. He could improve again. But for me, I couldn't get away from the Irish Raider. And like I say, I think Jamie's made some excellent points around as to why that horse should be there. To go off favourite for an Irish National is no easy feat. It's a very vibrant betting market. And given the unexposed profile that he arrived with in the race that day, I kind of was quite taken by that. I appreciate he's got to show something a bit better than he did that day when he pulled up, but I think he will bounce back. And Henry de Bromhead's been ticking over. I wouldn't say they're banging in the winners, but he's ticking over well enough that I can't be put off.
Yeah, and that form, like I say, we expect it to come good and just to get there steadily throughout the season then, don't we? His jumping. Are we totally confident in his jumping around Cheltenham? We know they're not the biggest fences around Cheltenham, but in this type of a race, it does take a fair bit. So I'm just going to throw that back in your direction there, see who wants to take it.
Yeah, I think you're right that he has made mistakes, but there's 2 things about that. Number one is that you have to make some allowance for the fact that he hasn't had that many goals and he was learning as a novice. And number 2, Kate, is that I think it's inbuilt into his price as well, because if he was a really proficient jumper, A, he'd have achieved more last year and have been off a higher mark, and B, also, it would have been some tightening of the price as well. So I think even though the risk-reward factor, you've got to weigh that up, it is in your favour, that sort of price.
Playing devil's advocate, of course, there, rather than it being batted back at me.
I think you'll go favourite though, Sam, do you?
I think, well, we were 10-1, I think, when betting opened, 13-2 at time of recording. I think you're completely right, there will be a significant move. The only other horse I thought could go off favourite, which is nearly getting better of Nicky Henderson's horse, is Lord Accord, who obviously has run really well off a pound higher in the race last year. So he was the only one I thought might shorten up a little bit further as well. Those 2, I think, I'd be surprised if it's not one of those 2 going off favourite.
Yeah, I don't want my selection to be going off favourite, to be honest, because I'm with Quick Draw, and I expected him to be a drifter towards the off. 5-1 is probably as short as I want to go in this spot, really, for him. But he's a horse I like, and he's a horse where I think people are going to be really trying to take on, as judged on his reappearance win at Ludlow last time out, because the form doesn't look very strong behind him, and he absolutely dotted up by 21 lengths as well. But with Nicky Henderson's horses, when they win on their reappearance, we know that they're not fully tuned up for that. So the thing that carries them through for me more so than anything is ability. So I'd be marking plenty of Henderson horses up on their reappearance starts with the extra fitness then to their name onto their second start. Now, admittedly, Ludlow is very much a front runner biased track. He was on the front end of a pace. He's likely to be ridden forwards again then here. But I still think this is a feasible mark for him off of 1-3-4. He jumped really well and he's still unexposed at this trip as a chaser. So I'm hoping for a little bit of a drift as people try to take him on, but Quick Draw for me. But you 2 are both with the Irish Raider of Am I Right? Again, do let us know your own selections in the comment section below for that contest at Cheltenham as we move on to our final scheduled race in this part of the show, again at Cheltenham. Now a fascinating novices chase for 5-year-olds and over 3 miles and half a furlong at 4:10, where Flooring Porter, he could quite possibly be the biggest draw on the card. The 2-time Sayers Hurdle champion makes his chase debut, but Sam, does he win?
Yeah, I never like to be overly bullish with these sort of statements around novice chasers, but you look through this field. Let's be frank, it's a little disappointing, isn't it? We've got 2 Irish horses in here, and then we've got 2 from the same stable. This is kind of, to me, an example where the jump season has got its issues. Flooring Porter, I did notice, only one bookmaker had priced this race up, and they had him at 8 to 13. I'd be staggered if we're that kind of price on him. I genuinely thought he'd be probably 1 to 2, something like that. I think he's going to even be maybe 1 to 2. He'll be very popular. He'll go in all the multis. Gavin Cromwell had a nice winner yesterday at Clonmel. He's ticking over really well. There's a lot to like about the horse's chances. I wouldn't personally be getting too involved, but like I say, if we're anything like that kind of price, it may draw me in. The weights as well. He's obviously getting weight from a couple in here. I just think he's not going to have to become an absolute world beater over fences to win this race. And I'm still not going to sit here and say I'm desperate to back him anti-post for anything Cheltenham before he runs, because we will shorten him. Inevitably, if he wins well, we will. But I'd be interested to see how he gets on. But it's a no-bet race for me.
No, but if he was that pricer, you'll be having a stern word with your trainers, no doubt. You'll be heading straight down to that
I don't think they'll
office.
listen to me, Kate, sadly.
Well, I will soon be following them if they do price him up at that. But, Jamie, what were you really anticipating from this race?
It's a tricky one, isn't it? And playing the percentages, what sets me on my heels regards him is that he'll be turning 9 on New Year's Day, and he's had 25 runs over hurdles. So it's quite late in life to be switching to fences. Now, obviously, part of the reason for that was he was such a good and dominant stays hurdler. So naturally, you're going to stick at what you're really good at for so long. But equally, it's just in the back of my mind that at that age and stage of his career, not many horses have done what he did and transferred all of their hurdling ability to chasing at that stage of life. And then we've got the other angle of the middle ground, his fitness, and also We've All Been Caught. There's 20 pounds between them on hurdles form. But I would be staggered if We've All Been Caught wasn't at least a £10 better chaser, given the size of him, given the style of him, and given the way that Twiston Davis has started the season as well. So just one of those where playing the percentages, I'd rather go with We've All Been Caught. The jockeys are interesting here, aren't they? Sam's obviously switching from the recent winner Broadway Boy to We've All Been Caught, which says something. And Keith Donoghue gets his chance on Flooring Porter for the first time over fences as well.
Yeah, taking over from Dally Mullins and the plate. But like I say, it is interesting then with Sam Twiston Davis which way he was going to go. But they've always thought the world of We've All Been Caught, haven't they? And
have you ever seen him in the flesh or not?
No, not in the flesh, but on TV even he looks a monster.
He's a real monster, yeah. Like I say, I'd be staggered if he wasn't a much better chaser.
I hope so, because he burnt me a few times last season. So, yeah, maybe at some point I'll be getting some sort of payback from him, but hopefully not on this occasion, because I'm with Flooring Porter as well, where, again, when we were looking between the weights, measures, official ratings here, if he takes to this discipline, he's going to take the world of beating. Now, for me, when I initially used to watch Flooring Porter on TV, he looked a really big, sizable type, quite a bowling ball type of a horse. But I saw him in the flesh, and he's not got much size to him whatsoever. And because I sort of had to ask twice to someone riding out at Cheltenham saying, is that Flooring Porter? They're like, yeah, no, it is. And I couldn't believe the size of him. He was really small. So I can understand why they probably haven't gone over fences yet. A, because he's been such a stalwart of the stayers hurdle game, but also that size. Now, he is erratic about everything he does, so this could go very much one way or the other then for Flooring Porter. We know that when he lands over his hurdles, he has that tendency to dart off to his left. So we know that Keith Donoghue is very much going to have his wits about him on Flooring Porter to try and keep him straight as a die. But on all known ability, he should be winning this, provided he takes to the fences. So Flooring Porter for the pair of us two, and to Jamie, just to reiterate.
Yeah, We've All Been Caught, I think, just playing the percentages, hoping the Flooring Porter age, Father Time meets Mother Nature, as it does with us all.
We're all getting that. As our discussion pre-show would also echo.
Not Justin Timberlake anymore, you know, at this day and age.
No, to be fair, that's ageing us in itself, isn't it? Going back to NSYNC. Right, that is everything from us in this part of the show. Up now, we're going to be heading over to the Skypad to give you our best bets for the weekend. Now, it's the all-important part of the show when we give you our best bets for the weekend. Jamie, it feels only polite that we let you go first.
Yes, I shall charge through the door first, Kate, with a nap, a next best and a long shot. That's right. So let's have a look at the nap. Pay the Piper up at Kelso for Anne and Ian Hamilton. 3 from 6 so far this season. It's a tremendous stable and one which has started the season in brilliant form. Now, Pay the Piper is just a cut above this lot and he's very good at the game he's playing. Unseated the 5th at Wetherby on his comeback, but that was uncharacteristic of him and he should take care of that lot in that Kelso 2-mile chase. Antrim Coast, go and have a look at his Punchestown win last time, because he takes off halfway up the running and beats Mullins and Elliott, and now gets 3 miles at Cheltenham. So he's coming in red hot for Gavin Cromwell, and I think he can take care of that staying novice. And then finally, the long shot, Matters Most, who's a bigger price today than he was for the Mill Reef. Just pulled too hard when held up in the Mill Reef, but prior to that, he'd been progressing really well, including chasing home stablemate Task Force up at Ripon. So this type of race, or this specific race, it does go the way of horses like Matters Most rather than Class Acts, because if you're hardened and you're proven on soft ground and you're just really streetwise, it can help. So they're my 3 joining in for today.
What a lovely blend of meetings as well that Jamie's taken us to. So, Sam, are you going for a similar geographical range, or where were you looking?
Well, I'm going to need a bit of luck because my next bet's going to come at Newbury. But let's touch with the nap to start with. And I'm going to Doncaster. Diego Vasquez is going to show that he will handle that softer ground, follow in the hoof prints of Auguste Rodin last season, give Aidan O'Brien yet another win in the big race on Saturday. Yes, as I mentioned, Newbury, they're going to need a lot of luck to get this meeting on, but one horse that will relish no matter how soft and heavy it gets is Hamish. He's had a great season this year. You go back through some of his form last year as well. Just touched off by Kyprios over in Ireland. 6-4, I think, looks a very fair price about him. And then my long shot. I struggled a little bit this week for a long shot. And then I went through the Potemps qualifier, which you're always bound to find a strange result or two. Obviously, Ireland's suffering with not as many of these, so you've got an absolutely stacked field of raiders here. Really curious to see how everything gets on in it. Obviously, only the 4 places now qualifying, so people obviously need to look a little bit further towards the front. But Jet of Magic, for me, had a good season so far and arrives here fit and ready to go. 22-1. Got a very capable conditional on board in James Turner, who will take £10 off. He's won on his last couple of rides for Nigel Twiston-Davies, and the yard in great form. I just felt this horse might have a little bit more to offer with him in the plate. Nigel Twiston-Davies obviously does really well at that meeting as well. Best of luck.
Yeah, best of luck, certainly, and especially for the Potemps qualifier. But we've had very similar thoughts, though, because our nap and our long shot both go in the same race. But I'm taking on Sam's nap, though, because I am siding with Ancient Wisdom in the Kameko Futurity at 2:10 at Doncaster for all of the reasons I stated earlier on. I think he'll handle conditions best of all. He has the best form in the book, a fair level of experience already to his name, and the holding over some of his rivals on form. For all that, it's a quick turnaround, but that's my only real concern. Next best is going to be Call Me Ginger in the 3:20 at Doncaster, a 0-105. 5 furlong handicap, a horse that's had a brilliant season. He's been better as ever as a 7-year-old this year, winning at Chester and Ascot in September. Now, admittedly, September is his season, his month to really come good in the season, but he's shown in the past he can at least carry that form through until the autumn proper. So I'm hoping that Call Me Ginger will be able to do that again here, and especially from a low draw in still one, which is something I really want for that race. And again, I'm going to Cheltenham for the P word, the Potemps qualifier at 3 o'clock. Now, Espoir de Rome, 16-1, a horse with an awful loss of ability. Now, he has had his issues, but he showed how much ability he had when he was unfortunate to fall in the Grade 1 Mildmay Chase at Aintree back in 2021. It's been a bit of a recovery mission for him since then, but he's racing off of a £12 lower hurdle mark, and he's had a wind operation since we last saw him. The last time and the only time he's had a wind operation, he won his next start, so I'm hoping that will work the oracle again for Espoir de Rome in the 3 o'clock at Cheltenham. Right, that is everything from us on this week's show.
One more thing, Kate.
Oh, okay, not.
I had to change my nap because my original nap, it wasn't allowed. But if I hijack camera 3 for a second, I can tell you and show you the original nap. And we're going to do some live odds compiling here on Weekend Winners. It's a Weekend Winners first. Sam, what price is Declan not
Oh,
to get,
here we go.
not to get his spot back on Weekend Winners? Let's have a look at it. Oh!
1 to 3. To be fair, there's a bit of juice in that still, to be fair. I'll be taking it.
Speaking to me next week.
There we are. 1 to 6, it's gone already.
Number 6 got a row. 1 to 3. Do you think that's a good price or not? Let us know in the comment section below, as we always say. Well, I will say a big thank you to Jamie then for stepping in for Deck. Deck, maybe not so much now on the back of that, but thank you to Jamie and to Sam for all of their hard work as per usual. A big thank you to you at home for watching. Remember to watch all of Doncaster's action live on Sky Sports Racing. We'll be back at the same time next week to preview more weekend action.